and it says go, and I think we're live. If you can hear me out there, go ahead and drop something in a comment or in the chat and whatnot. Everything is shaking because my cat is freaking out above my desk. Say hi if you can hear me and all that. I'm going to just say a quick howdy right there. Howdy, y'all. And let's see. Yeah, no, I got those going. I've got that going. What I'm trying to get is my guest on here. For crying out loud. Okay. That's fine.
Really? You just threw the whole plant on the floor.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
Broke the pot.
That's a good thing to do on a live. That's perfect.
The pot. And look at the poor plant.
I know. It's very sad. Well, every live is interesting in some way.
Pot, girl. What the hell?
You're getting laughs from Australia right now.
Ridiculous. Babe, let me just clean that up.
Greetings, Australia.
I'm sorry.
How are you?
I know you're trying to be all professional.
I am, yeah. It's just not happening.
Poor cat.
It's fine. Everything's good.
I'm the one who put the plant there.
We just want everything to start out in the most insane way possible. Hello, David. How are you? This is pretty much just what it is right now. Well, of course, but she's up there.
I don't know why she's
so
like that.
My desk is set up in like this weird way because I actually built this desk myself, and so I have this bottom part of it, and I've got this top. And it was like an L desk that I built out of like black iron piping and some 2x12s and whatnot. And so when I moved the desk to its current location, I couldn't have it as an L. It doesn't fit anywhere. So I took the smaller part of the L and I made a shelf for my cat. And of course, we've got a lot of plants. And the cat ran into the plants and knocked the plant over. And there's just... To quote Jacqueline's mother, there's dirt everywhere.
There would be like one speck of dirt.
There's dirt everywhere. Oh my goodness gracious. Let me see. I'm trying to get Michael on here. You just heard it. Yeah, you laughed before you knew what it was. It was indeed a crash.
It wasn't my cat for once. Although kind of.
Let's see. So how is everybody tonight, if you're watching? I'm sure this started out much less entertaining for you than it did for me. There's that. I didn't expect to get hit by a plant first thing. But it happens. Tonight is just a casual stream. Trying to get my guy. All right, let's see. I'm going to send him another link. Yep. Good. Right here. Okay. And in the meantime, what do you got going on this Thursday evening? What's happening? What's good? What's shaking? I've had a relatively uneventful day until I got hit by a flying plant from the cat. But otherwise, it was pretty quiet. Just a general work day. We've got 4-day weekend territory for some people here in the States for Labor Day and all that. And yeah. So there's going to be that going on. I don't really have anything going on this weekend. My son's coming to visit, so that's cool. We're going to go eat some good food and those sorts of things. But otherwise, just trying to relax and exist through the really hot days and all that. Let's see. We're having some technical difficulties, if that's what you're wondering, what could be going on here. He's reaching out to me, so we're gonna see. Huh. All right. So I'm going to try and get him on that link again. And just sharing the link. Trying to oh, David trucking through Vermont. Well, that's pretty cool. I was up there not that long ago. I go up through Vermont all the time. It's always a thing for me. And let's see. No, I don't have anything there. I'm going to see if I can do something for yeah, you're definitely not waiting for the host. I am here and I am live and I'm on there. There's nothing that I can see that says to do or do not add you. Let's see. North or south to go east or west. You're not wrong. There's that. That's very true. Folks, I apologize for some technical difficulties and just trying to get Michael to hop on here. But it's he's got the link to it, and apparently the link is just not working. So I'm trying to figure this out and see oh, let's see. Yeah, that is literally it. Strange that I am not showing is visible for him, but you guys can see me okay. So there's that. Well, my apologies while we try and get this figured out here. I'm going to keep the streaming on for the time being, just trying to work it out with him. No. No, show yet. No, he's there. That's fine. Participant is allowed. He's there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that part of it. And I'm going to try another link here. Yeah, sometimes there's technical difficulties, and on my end, what I'm trying to do is just send him a link to drop in here, but that link is apparently having some issues. So we're still trying to work that out because I do want to have a nice chat with my guy here and see, but he says that every time he clicks on that link that nothing's happening and he can't even see me on there. So but it does appear as if though I am live and on here, you guys can see me, so that's good. Oh, nothing is without some kind of technical difficulty. This whole stream started out with me getting hit with a plant from above. So, oh, there we go. Aha. Aha. Aha.
There we go.
Ah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
But I can't hear you.
You can't.
We're a step
No.
closer, sir.
We're a step closer. We have video. Hi.
There we go. I know. Hi.
All right. Let me try this.
Do you have some kind of an audio thing? Because I've got your audio all the way up on my end here.
Let me try this.
All right, we're closer. So much closer. We're just going to have to do this in interpretive dance. So, let's see. Microphone.
Microphone's on.
Yeah, I got your volume all the way up, man. So I'm not sure what our next technical hurdle would be. Do you have a? Oh, it says we can hear him. All right, I can't hear you. That's going to be an issue.
That's going to be an interesting conversation. If you can't hear me,
we're talking.
Are you? Wait, do you have the option?
We can't hear each other.
Do you have the option of using your speakers?
All right.
Can you use your speakers?
Can I? Hang on. I'm going to send you a message. Can you see this? Yeah, they're on.
We're gonna do a live stream of us typing at each other. That's gonna be great.
My speakers are on. They're in my ears, but it's not
Okay, but you said people that they can hear me. Okay, I see somebody.
I'm just gonna try and reset and reconnect it. You can hear me. We're good.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the strangest thing ever. All right, here we go. Let's make sure my settings are all clear because my sound is all sounding. I'm good there. I'm good there. I'm good all the way. All right, I'm going to try and disconnect my headphones, and perhaps that's something that'll make this happen.
Yeah, it's
all right. Let's see.
I'm doing this through Google Chrome.
No.
And no.
Aha.
What?
Yes. I can hear you.
Hello.
We got it.
Check.
It only took us 10 minutes.
1, 2, 3 in the place to be. Okay. Good. All right. Brings me back to my radio days, man.
I'm tired. Like, we need to just end this. And we'll be
the
fine.
on-air light is on. Why can they not hear me?
Why can't anything work? That's the big question. Well, all right. So I'm going to scrap that, but I can hear you fine, and that's
your God cartoon characters. That's
because now the quaff is out, and like I'm all right there. So hey, did you see me get hit by a plant when we started out?
No.
Okay. So this entire thing started out with me getting hit by a flying plant. Because
your whole writing career?
Because my cat, no, like in a pot, and the plant came down, and because my cat has a perch right above my desk. She just like hangs out and stares at me like judgingly. And she took off because the other cat was chasing her. So she went up there, knocked over the plant. Plant came down, dirt everywhere. And then you're like, I can't connect. And I'm like, holy crap. But we're here together. And that's what's important.
I have a director's chair for my cat in the
director's chair
here. Yeah, he just sits there and judges me too. He just sits there and stares at me.
I mean, it's a good thing. I guess I got the mic that doesn't have like it doesn't pick up the sound from the backside. So like I can hear you as long as there's no echo, like we're good.
Audio Technica is just the one way in. It doesn't pick up everything.
What do they call it? Cardioid? I think it's cardioid or something like that.
Something like that.
Well,
my friend George Ledoux, voice artist extraordinaire, would know, but I'm not that technically minded as far as audio equipment goes these days.
Well, let's do this. Let's just start fresh and say hi, Michael. It's good to see you.
Hey, David. Good to see you again.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
So just for like a brief kind of like intro, what are you drinking?
This is tea.
Oh, okay. This is
just
gin.
tea.
So we're fine.
Good.
Yep. So just to kind of give some direction to this whole thing, Michael and I ran into each other. We just chatted back and forth a couple times on the Three Ravens Discord server, and then painful. We ended up on a podcast together, TDB Pirate Radio. Did you found that link, right?
Yeah, I got that.
I got okay, good.
I think my daughter was wanting to show that to some of her friends, and
gotcha.
My brother has a bunch of friends. He lives in Alaska. He has a bunch of friends that don't believe I'm a writer because they can't find my stuff yet. And that's because up until this point, I've been a ghostwriter and writing under pen names that I can't divulge because of weird contract restrictions with other people.
Right.
And so I got tired of all that. And I said, I'm going to write this. I'm going to do the next thing in my name. But I sent him the link to this. I said, tell your friends to tune in. They could see I'm real.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry for the adventurous beginning, and I hope they stayed. My gosh, I'm not usually this frantic over the whole thing, and it's not the gin. I'm telling you, because
I was about to say I'm finna blame the gin.
It's not the gin. It's not the gin. No. It's Tom
that's
Collins.
Only your third or fourth one. So
this is like 90%, like lemon soda. That's all it is. I just
and
like
melted ice. And, I got
you. Yep. No, it's straight vodka. That's what I'm doing. Everclear. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
Paint stripper. Nice.
So for those of you watching that may not know who the heck I am, my name is David Batterina. I'm an author. I do stuff on YouTube, been doing it for a really long time, though you wouldn't really know it if you saw the debacle that was the beginning of this stream, but that's fine. And Michael and I connected, and I just think you're a really cool guy.
Thanks, man.
You've got an excellent Scottish accent. Go ahead. Give me.
But if there are any real Scots listening or watching, I apologize in advance because it's an accent. I developed it doing theater back in the day.
It's fantastic.
And nobody in the United States can really tell the difference.
No, not at all.
A Scot and an Irishman. So you get away with a lot,
I said Irish was more like
all they know is freaking Shrek.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
I know.
That's pretty true. Yeah. So there's that. And anyway, I really wanted to bring you on and just kind of chat and have a good time and talk about a couple things. And when we discussed a little bit earlier, just a couple weeks back, touching on the topic of gatekeeping, because that is something that is, I won't say near and dear to my heart, but certainly as a topic, it's something that's like kind of, it's a thing, it's a thing that we all deal with.
It's gotten worse. I mean, I've been trying to be a writer for a really long time. I wanted to be a writer since I was like in 5th grade.
Right.
And started turning short stories into English teachers, and various English teachers were like, hey, this is pretty good. You should pursue this. And then I was like, oh, that's cool. And then for a really long time, I was in love with the idea of being a writer, much like Douglas Adams admitted to. He said he was in love with being a writer and the idea of doing interviews. And I think we all do this at some point or another. We're like practicing interview question answers and stuff,
Right.
Like, ooh, what if they ask me this? Oh, I'll say this, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the craft and the discipline it takes to actually be a writer, I was like,
right,
this is a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
Come to find out that after a couple of editors reviewed some early work that, wow, I suck. I need to do some stuff and learn some stuff. So I did that. And so I wrote a really trashy urban fantasy novel back in the 90s. And back then I was trying to do TradPub.
Right.
Now, for those not in the know, TradPub is what we use to denote traditional publishers. Penguin, Random House, all those kind of guys.
The big ones. Yep.
And the big guys. I think there's like 5 of them left.
Big
now.
5. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The big 5. And so to get into that market, you got 2 routes in. You send an unsolicited manuscript, actual paper, kids. For those of you who were born after
right.
Paper, you send it in, it sits in a box, and maybe somebody reads it. Maybe they don't. Maybe they take a look at the first paragraph and chuck it.
The end of Raiders of the Lost Ark comes to mind, like when they're just wheeling it through like this warehouse, like It's just top men are working on it. Just top men. Yeah,
men.
top
Right.
men.
Yeah. Thanks,
Right.
Jack Porkins.
Yeah, there it
Appreciate you
goes.
working for the
There
Feds.
goes my manuscript to be uncovered
Exactly.
in 1,000 years.
Exactly. And so those were the original gatekeepers, the slush pile readers who are like
Right.
lower level interns. They're not even getting paid probably to read these things. And then they pass that on to somebody in the publishing house and they say, yeah, this has potential. And then they either
Right.
accept or reject it. Those are the original gatekeepers back in the day. Not a recommended method of getting your foot in the door in one of the big publishing houses because there's just zero guarantee. So everybody pretty much went the route of finding an agent. And that was like, right. Remember Writer's Digest? I mean, issue after issue of how to land an agent, how to query an agent, how to send a sample to an agent. It was all about getting an agent for like a decade.
Right.
And so I followed all that advice religiously and shopped the manuscript around. And I finally got an agency interested. And for those, again, not in the know, an agent will take your manuscript and they have inroads into the publishers and they'll take it and shop it around and try to get somebody to nibble. So this agency sent the manuscript back and said, you know, it's good. It's got potential. It's about 70,000 words too long for this genre. Okay. And they're like, so yeah, you need to trim about 70,000 words and get it back to us in 60 days.
No.
What? So yeah, I cut 4 characters, 6 subplots.
Oh my
and
gosh.
completely rewrote the ending and sewed it all back together. Turned the edits around in 30 days though. I'm still proud of that.
Nice.
Sent it back in and then waited as you do. And they finally sent it back with all kinds of markings all over it, which I thought, oh, great. They want revisions. They're interested. You know, that's what I thought.
Sure.
But the letter that was on top of the marked up manuscript was, we're moving into a different area. We're no longer representing manuscripts in this genre. So thanks, but no thanks. And I was really mad. That pissed me off because I was like, I just spent a month turning this around to begin with, number one. And number two, I had adapted it from a screenplay that I wrote. And I didn't know anything about screenplay format back then either. So it was like, it was a massive screenplay because it was I wrote it as a blueprint for how the finished film was supposed to look instead of just, this happened. And then there's all this dialogue.
Right. Yeah.
So I was mad. So I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to figure out how to self-publish. Well, that runs you smack dab into the second set of gatekeepers. Back then, Vanity Press.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was the only option. There was no Amazon at this point. Amazon was still an online bookstore.
Yes. Pay us to print your book.
Exactly. And those guys are still out there. They're still out there. They've had to refine their techniques, but they're still out there.
You should, as if there's anyone that's just like a new author or anything, if
you're even thinking about it.
If you get that offer, somebody's like, sure, I'll publish your book and it's going to cost, like $2,000 and we'll do the cover and all the things. That's an immediate no.
Right.
Immediate no.
And then after those guys, the next set of gatekeepers that came along as technology advanced were the print on demand vanity publishers.
For sure.
Because they say, we set up these machines in bookstores and people can go in there and they type in and they find your book and they print it right there for you. Like, well, how do they know my book's even in the thing? They, that's the marketing end. Okay, what are you going to do for that? Don't worry about it. We got that.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that.
Trust us. Yeah.
Okay. So I decided that was a crock too. And so I kind of shelved everything for a while. I didn't write anything for a really long time.
Right.
I was a tremendous fan of crime fiction. I love Elmore Leonard. I love old hard-boiled detective stuff, Philip Marlowe stories, Mike Hammer, all these guys, and so I thought, wouldn't it be fun to kind of do a modern detective story with an adventure into it, and that would be fun. So I started plotting that out, and I said, you know what, me and my best friend, we have a lot of fun, and we always thought we would have. You ever see the film Running Scared? Gregory Hines, Billy Crystal. There are a
Oh
couple of
man, it's been a
Chicago
long
cops.
time. I know
It's an
that
ancient movie from
I
the
can
80s.
see the cover because he's got the Cubs
Right.
jersey on. Yeah,
They've
yeah.
got the Cubs jersey.
Yep,
They're
yeah,
standing
yeah.
in front of a beat-up car that has unmarked police units spray
Right,
painted on
right,
it.
right.
Right. Those two characters are like me and my best friend would have been if we'd become cops.
Oh,
Period.
nice. Yeah,
It
yeah.
would have been just like that. So I
Well, better
thought, let
that
me
than
write
Training
something.
Day. So there's that.
Yeah, kind of like that. Exactly. But he's a 6'6" black guy, and I'm 5'6.5" white and fairly chubby. So it was just Laurel and Hardy in monochrome. It was great.
Right.
It would have been perfect. So I thought, let's write a comedic mystery thriller. That'd be fun.
Nice.
And I still didn't have a process. So years and years, and a lot of stuff that happened later, I finally started to actually learn the craft. And I learned the craft. And by this point, Amazon was a thing. Kindle Unlimited was a thing. And I was able to feed my sci-fi habit a lot easier. Because I always loved sci-fi too. And so I started hanging out with writers online, and I picked up a couple of gigs co-authoring something with another guy, and he wanted me to use a pen name. I never did figure out why, but apparently he wanted to reuse the pen name for the next co-author if I didn't work out, which I didn't.
Interesting. Okay.
It was weird. I'm not saying anything else.
Yeah.
So after that, it was I started hanging out with some pals that were also writers who were just starting out like me. Notably, Jeremy Spires, author of the Ashes of Eternity series.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's fun. It's a fun read. Check it out.
Right.
But he introduced me to some other people who were big names you would know. But they kind of mentored me. They took me under their wing and they said, look, you learned some bad habits. Let's fix this. Let's do this. And I ended up doing some ghostwriting for some people. I ghost wrote 3 books in a lit RPG series for somebody. And it was the last 3 books in the series. And that was a really big learning experience. I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about formatting. I learned a lot about outlining, and
for sure,
because I was a pantser before then. I would sit there and be, stuck for hours. What happens next?
Right.
Crap, I don't know. So I hate that feeling. So I learned how to outline, and I learned the Sean Coyne, the 4-act structure and the plot points and all of that. And so I do everything that way now. I don't start writing the book until I have every book in the series outlined scene by scene in every chapter. So I'm never stuck.
Do you ever do you ever go off from that? Is it just like the pull to go off of the outline?
Absolutely. The outline is just an outline. In fact, that was one of the lessons I learned from one of my early mentors. I was stressing over going, deviating from the outline that I had been given for one of the ghostwriting projects. And I was like, this felt better. And then she read it and she was like, yeah, that works. That's okay. The outline is just an outline. It doesn't have to be, if you wander too far and I see it, I'll reel you back in.
Right.
She was tremendous. She was, I learned so much.
That's a good person to work with for sure.
Yeah, she was great. And so I learned that, the outline is kind of like speed limits here in the South. It's a suggestion. And I live in Memphis, the Memphis area, man. Everybody here, if they're not doing their Christian 5 miles over, they're doing 20 over, unless it's raining when they do 30 over.
But please, I'm in Connecticut. It's a
never mind then.
It's a constant drag race, like just on every highway and road there is anywhere. It's like I can't tell. Like I'll be playing GTA and I'll get off the PlayStation and go drive, and there's no difference. So it's pretty much what it's
just
like.
Noticed we have a Tron fan in the chat.
Oh,
Sam Robb just said, greetings, program. That's
there it is.
There it is. I'm a massive Tron and Tron Legacy.
What's going on, Sam?
I got the Tron Legacy poster on my desk. It's
nice.
Currently being flattened so I can get it matted.
Movie poster. That original movie was one of the ones that was like a big time sci-fi like shaper for me as a kid and everything.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, what was the first thing that you wrote? Like just first story that you wrote? Do you remember
just
it well?
Story?
Yeah.
That probably would have been a short story for my 6th grade English teacher, Mrs. Wicker.
Okay.
She was great. She was one of the first to take an interest in my writing. Um, and I wrote this story with this. It started out with it was a film noir kind of a setup, and the detective had the bad guys had him that drop on him, and he was about to die and everything. And then, right as they're about to squeeze the trigger, the main character is yelled at by his teacher and yanked out of the daydream that he was
Oh, nice.
in.
Right.
And I remember reading that scene to my dad, and my dad he was like, "Oh, I didn't even see that coming. This is great.
Nice.
That was
That's
cool.
good.
I like that."
That's
And
good.
so,
That's good.
and then this whole story was about a kid who just kept imagining a better life for himself as a gumshoe private eye, or as a time traveling dinosaur hunter, or whatever, and going through misadventures because his own life was just basically sucky.
Right. Well, there's that. Yeah. Nice. So I want to touch on a couple things just on you and what you have going on like right now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a quick boom, boom. I'm not going to close the stream out. Like, nobody freak out. But I do want to do
I got big.
Boom. I want to talk about this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you've got pre-orders ready to go for December 5th. What is, just give me a synopsis. What is Galaxy's Most Wanted? Tell me about it.
Well, I told you I'm a fan of crime fiction.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of attempts at crime fiction. I mean, one of the earliest series that I remember reading was The Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harrison.
Okay.
Slippery Jim DeGriz. He was an intergalactic criminal mastermind who never did the same kind of job twice. And then he gets recruited to catch bad guys instead of being one, because the best way to catch a thief is to use a thief.
Yep, for sure.
And I was like, well, that's been done, and I don't really want to do that. But I love the whole fish out of water aspect of a regular Earthman somehow ending up in space. We all love those stories.
Oh, for sure.
How they react to the fact that aliens are real and all this stuff. So I thought, what if we took a couple of South Side Chicago wise guys? One of them's a mastermind planner type, and the other one's just basically the muscle. And so my main character is Kai Fletcher. He is a mastermind planner. He got out of the game, though. He realized it was a dead end.
Right.
His last job kind of went bad. Somebody got killed. It was just a bad scene all the way around. He's like, this is a dead end. So he gets out. And he was quite happy to be poor and not a criminal anymore until his little brother got into a bookie for about $5,000.
Oh.
And was going to be made an example of. So he says, okay, fine, one last job. And so they pull this one last job, and unfortunately things go south again. Not his fault. It just happens that another criminal organization hit the rail yard next to where they were stealing a truck full of TVs from.
Okay.
And they end up on the run from cops, and they hide out in this warehouse, and the warehouse is actually a starship.
Right.
And it takes off, and they're trapped. And all of a sudden they find themselves working for an alien criminal syndicate to pay off their passage off Earth.
All right. Sounds good.
So not only is his kid brother stuck on Earth, still owing 5Gs to the bookie, now he's out in space and he can't get home.
Right.
So he has to plan a job for the criminal syndicate to rob one of the most powerful galactic-wide empires in known space.
For sure.
Vacanus Empire. They're going to steal as much as they can from their treasury. And that's what he has to do for them. And along the way, stumbles into a war that's older than the human race itself and gets suckered into that too.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is this do you have, how many books do you have planned? Like, what's your,
there are 4 books in the series.
Okay.
They are all written. Book 4, the final one, is with my personal editor right now.
Right.
And that is Kimberly Huther. If you need an editor, she is the gal. Look her up. She's on Facebook. She's very good.
Nice.
But shameless plug, I know.
No, that's
but
okay.
but she has saved me from myself multiple times.
It's fantastic.
These manuscripts. So, and then of course the Athon Books editors, the publishers, Athon Books, and their editors have helped me a great deal. So it's always learning. You never stop learning.
Oh, of course.
Books,
Yeah.
and you're always growing. So yeah, those books are written. Galaxy's Most Wanted Book 1 comes out December 5th. I'm not sure. I don't have a release date, but it will be released in, there's a paperback, but there's also Kindle Unlimited, ebook, and Audible will be coming out at the same time. So
are you doing the voicing?
No, I've not been a voice guy for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't have time to do it, even if I wanted to.
Right.
But they've got a really super guy doing it.
Nice.
And I'll look his name up in a second because I'm really bad with names. You know, you should know this more than anybody else, Steve. But I'm bad. If I didn't see it on the screen right now in front of me, I'd be like, oh,
classic. I'm gonna throw your stuff up here for a bit to I got you a ticker. There's all your stuff, right?
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's how y'all can find me on the web.
Right. I usually do everything. I'm just like, go to the website because it's easier than handing out all the links because I just put everything on there anyway.
My webmaster, though, Gavin, my webmaster recently hooked us up with a newsletter sign up. So if you do go to the website, you can sign up for a newsletter and you can receive, you can choose your notifications. You want to know about personal appearances, you can check that.
Nice.
You want to know about upcoming releases, you can check that. You want to know about
excellent.
all that. So it's all right there on the website. Plus, there's also a link to the very first thing that was published under my real name, which was a short story called No Hero in a fantasy anthology. Nice. And that's also on the website.
All right. Excellent. Well, yeah, I'm going to leave that go for a little bit.
Cool.
You know, I just wanted to kind of get an idea of what you had going on and you know what you've been working on before getting back to some of the gatekeeping stuff, but that's just fun to talk about.
Now I'm planning a 3-book series right now. I've got the first 2 books outlined. It's an alien invasion story with a bunch of East Tennessee hillbilly preppers.
Right. This is the one that you were talking about this morning.
That's the one. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's excellent.
A little more serious in tone than Galaxy's Most Wanted. Galaxy's Most Wanted definitely has a comic bent to it because it's me. You know, I can't help it.
I get it.
It's kind of who I am. So yeah. But the next series, which has yet to be titled, because I ran into some issues. You saw that. I ran into some issues.
Right. It does sound like fun. Yeah. And look, I get it because you had that. You said something that really resonated with me, which is like, all right, like I can do the outlining and do all these stuff. You can probably write whatever, but if the title's not in place, it's like brain freeze.
What am I doing?
I'm that way with chapter titles. I can't just have like a chapter and then nothing and then write the chat. Like I start to get like weird about it. I'll write like, I don't know, 4 or 5 paragraphs and I'm like, all right, this is good enough for a chapter title. So as long as I know it's there, I'm fine.
You know who's good at that? Shirtaloon, guy that writes He Who Fights with Monsters. It's a little RPG series that's published also by Athon. I'm not plugging Athon shamelessly, but it's a series that I fell in love with before I even knew who Athon was.
Right.
And but he puts a title to every chapter, but it's a line from somewhere in the chapter. And part of the fun of reading and listening to those books, I listen to them because the audio guy that he got for it is just amazing.
It's really good.
But is that you listen and you wait to hear the title of the chapter said by someone in the chapter. You're like, there it is. It's like a mouse hunt or
I tend to work mine about the same way. Like I try to pick something out, or at least something that's like a gag related to something that was a gag in the chapter, you know, in order to throw that in, just to give a little hint. I like it when it makes no sense when you look at it, and then it's like, oh crap, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. You know, those kinds of things.
I used to try to do that on earlier projects, and it got to the point where it was such a challenge just to think of a chapter title that I was dumping way more energy into that than I was in the actual chapter. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore.
You're not
Just
doing that
go with their
anymore.
number. And, you know, it's,
I'm
it's
just going to
just too
call it
much work.
chapter 4 and be done with it.
Chapter 4.
There's that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I like them. I like them just as it for me, it's always just another opportunity for a gag. That's how I look at it. So I'm like, all right, let me just
Like,
figure this out and like do
chapter
something
1,
stupid.
stuff goes wrong.
Well, pretty
2,
much.
more stuff goes wrong.
Yeah. Right. If there's
Chapter
a chapter
3,
that
something
like,
finally goes right.
if there's a chapter that has some kind of giant explosion, like the chapter is going to be called Boom. Like it's fine.
That's
Yeah,
great.
exactly. Like you know, for me, that's like just like a straightforward thing. So that's good. So back onto some of the gatekeeping stuff because I'm curious. I'm curious of your thoughts on this. Gatekeeping. Okay, so I feel like things changed when self-publishing became more of a thing because it eliminated a lot of that traditional publishing gatekeeping. And then even as it expanded more and you realize you can just throw an ebook on Amazon and you've got a book and there you are, it even knocked out a lot of the querying that people do for agents and everything else because they're just like, I'm cutting out the middleman and I'm going this way. My debut novel was self-published. I did everything. I hired somebody for the cover, but I ended up tweaking it a little bit. And I hired an editor because I'm like, all right, these are important. And somebody to format.
Very important.
If I was sitting there,
the mistake that people make is that they think they can skip
you
that
have
part.
You can't. Don't do that. No, don't throw it into Grammarly and call it good. That's yeah. We're not gonna go there. I run mine through Pro Writing Aid. I will do that. And that's part of like my own editing process. I also print out the entire thing and then go through it with highlighters and everything else because and a lot of times when I'm reading to like edit, I'll read certain sections backwards, as strange as this sounds.
Like Zatanna, like the words are backwards or
no. Like I'll start at so normally you're reading left to right, top to bottom. I read right to left, bottom to top because your brain doesn't skip over the things that it would normally smooth out and fill in for you that you would miss. You've seen that famous thing from Mark Twain, right?
Right.
So it just eliminates those kinds of tricks that your brain plays for certain sections. I'll do that.
My process is a little different. When I finish, when I get my first draft done and I type the end or whatever, because it's not always the end, but my very first edit is I read it aloud because I write for audio. I keep that in mind. And that's because I'm an old radio guy. I used to work at a radio station back in Paducah, Kentucky, believe it or not, where I grew up, and done a few bits and pieces of voice work here and there over the years. I was a theater kid. So sound and how things sound is very important to me. Also, I realized that if I'm reading it out loud, I don't miss things. If a word suddenly doesn't make sense or it feels weird in the sentence, it feels weird and I catch it and I'm like, oh no, that doesn't work. So I can go back and I can clean that sentence or that line or phrase or whatever it is up.
Right.
So reading out loud the first go through is just really beneficial for me. May not work for everybody. Absolutely. Your mileage may vary.
I'm not the type to just give the advice and say that somebody has to do it a certain way. But there's no way I could get through it without reading it aloud. Like just so many times. I'll change a couple words. I read it aloud again. Because I need to make sure that flows. And then sometimes I find myself when I'm reading aloud, this is what happens. I don't know if you experience the same thing, but you'll read it aloud and you'll inject a word to make it sound better. And the word's not there in the text. And you're like, oh, crap.
Yes. And I got to add
where the word goes. Yeah. Now the word's going to go in there,
Yes.
A lot of times it's just like, because I really try to limit my dialogue tags. But a lot of times it's just, it just needs that little, he said, and I'm happy. Or whatever it is that I've got to inject in there. We've got a hello Paducah.
All right, I got a shout out. That's my homeboy John Wilkins. We grew up together in Paducah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I told him I was going to be on here tonight, and so I got to give a shout out to Beaker, John Beaker Wilkins.
Back to Paducah.
That's my boy. Yeah,
straight out of Paducah. That could be an album.
Still nowhere near as good as Straight Out of what was Weird Al's rip off of Straight Outta Compton? It was
he did one. There's a
he did one.
okay.
I can't remember what it was. I can't remember now.
Do you know what chap hop is?
Chap
hop.
No.
Okay, so there's this genre of music, and it's out of England. And when you're a chap with the bow tie and you're a proper English chap, but they do hip hop, but as proper British hip hop, right?
Oh, is this those two old guys that do the old British gangster rap?
It's not so much that. There's one called there's a Professor Elemental is one of them. And then there's Mr. B.
John probably knows who that is.
Mr. B, the gentleman rhymer, or the gentleman rhymer. I think he does one called Straight Out of Surrey. And they're like, it's really ridiculous music. I'm a Professor Elemental guy myself, but that's just what it reminded me of. So
the only chap I know is Odd Chap, and he's a Brit, but he does a genre called electro swing. Don't know if
I like electro swing.
Oh, I love electro swing. That's one of my. I listen to so many different genres of music when I write, bro. It's ridiculous. It's
right.
I think I listened to left coast punk band MXPX for about 2 months straight, working on book 3.
Holy cow.
Book 2, sorry. And then book 3, I listened to Van Halen almost exclusively because there's a character in book 3 who's an alien, but he's obsessed with 80s hairband and 80s earth culture. And he actually runs around wearing Van Halen concert tees. And he actually sounds a lot like Keanu Reeves from Bill and Ted.
Right. That's epic. Yeah.
Good luck with that character audio guy.
I love doing stuff like that. I'm writing something similar, but I'm trying to get one of my characters in futuristic space doing all kinds of like millennial slang and stuff like that, just to have a party with it, because like, why not just throw pop culture into space and just have a party with it? Well, then you'll appreciate this, because I'm always like, you can support the stream, right? There it is.
Nice. Lionel. Has anybody have you seen him recently?
No.
I caught a couple of clips of him on American Idol, and he's gone the way of everyone else in Hollywood. And he's Botoxed his face into immobility, which is the opposite of what Joan Rivers did, right? She was having faceless until her ears met. Right? But no,
like everybody from Brazil, where they just kind of pulled her face back and everything.
And speaking of 80s hairband, Cheryl and I were watching Americans Got Talent last night. It's my wife, Cheryl. And because that's one of our guilty pleasures every year.
Right.
And Steel Panther was on the show.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, as contestants. Okay.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And one of them was clearly wearing a massive poofy wig. And another one, the lead vocalist, his face was just frozen. He'd had so much Botox, and it looked like he'd had his cheekbones done. He's looking very Mickey Rourke right about now.
Right.
It's frightening. Mickey Rourke doesn't even look human anymore. It's crazy.
That's fantastic.
But I guess I should steer the topic back to gatekeeping, because we did mention that it evolved.
Well, here's one of the things I'm wondering is, because it changed and technology changed it. And I from my experience now, a lot of the gatekeeping comes from within the writing community.
And that's one
sad to see. It's sad to see, because you have a lot of people that say you can't write if you do this, or you shouldn't be a writer if you do this. And Stephen King, I'm looking at you, who's like, if you don't read 4 books a day, you can't be a writer, et cetera, et cetera.
But there's a flip side to that. Like Mike Rothman, M.A. Rothman, amazing author of like techno thrillers and hard sci-fi. He shared a story at, I don't know if you're familiar with the Writer's Dojo. You ever been there?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So he shares a lot with them. And he shared a story from back in his earlier days when he was being courted by a trad pub company for a book that he wrote. But the thing was, Rothman will tell you the first thing, he's a white Jewish guy.
Right.
But the main character of this novel was a Black American guy.
Here we go.
And the publisher was like, yeah, we can't do that. They're going to kick this out because they're going to say that you can't write this character. And at that point, he became rather upset and pulled it and went and self-published and became a USA Today best-selling author with that book.
Go figure.
Doing it indie. And so the reverse does happen. I don't know how often, but it can happen. But yeah, that's an early example of this kind of the writing community itself. But that was more of a trad pup gatekeeping. But what you see now, is a reflection of what's happening in Hollywood. You have Hollywood people saying, well, look, you can't play a gay character if you're not gay.
Right.
And I'm like, but wait a minute. But did you not watch How I Met Your Mother? Where a gay man played one of the awfulest straight
misogynistic
ever? Why can't we do the reverse? I mean, there were award-winning from Greg Kinnear in As Good as It Gets. Played a gay man who was horribly persecuted for his lifestyle, but he did it brilliantly. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he got an Oscar nod for that. I don't think he won.
Tom Hanks in Philadelphia.
But then again, there's this revisionism going on. Tom Hanks has come out and said, I wouldn't have done that role in today's climate. I think that role was a mistake. And I'm like, what?
You know what? Look, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw on Tropic Thunder and enjoy it for what it is. And just have a great time. I love every minute of that movie. And but they can't play, like, you can't make those things now. There has been a culture shift for sure. And we do see a lot of that where it's like, well, if you don't, I mean, I've seen, look, the hellscape that is Twitter, right?
It's X now.
It's jitter. But the hellscape that is the shitter, if you look at that now, and you
is their
see,
symbol now a blue porta potty?
It should be. It should be. You have these people that are there's like this entire mob kind of mentality, and it's very very tribal. And so you have groups of people that are like, you can't write a woman as a straight white male. Right. Or something along those lines. Like, just not even as like a side character or anything. Or then we start to get into the topic. I'm going to say something to get the stream shut down. But when it comes to sensitivity readers, I have opinions. Right. Because you're basically just inviting gatekeeping into everything that you do. And
it's really affected the con circuit. Several convention circuit. A lot of writers have basically given up on certain conventions because of the gatekeeping that goes on. They'll try to bring a horribly popular author in to tell people how to be successful authors, and then that guy gets blocked because he has an opinion about something that doesn't match what the groupthink is.
Well, this is what was happening to Larry Correia.
That's kind of who I was thinking of.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking here, we're all fairly open-minded people, and if nothing else, we're accepting of other people's lives, and we shouldn't be shutting someone down just because we disagree with them.
For sure.
I'm totally against that, and that's kind of what it's become. And unfortunately, Amazon has kind of started participating in that. There's certain books that you can't get anymore.
Yeah.
Disney is self-censoring. They'll put that little blurb up in front of movies like Song of the South and warn people that it could actually be dangerous and things like that.
Rewriting or editing, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to remove the fact that Augustus Gloop was fat. I'm like, he was the fat kid.
That's like, okay. Ronald Dahl never liked the movie version of his book anyway.
Right.
So,
I wonder what he would think of Johnny Depp's portrayal.
I always wondered about that myself, because Gene Wilder is kind of a hero of mine because he was so funny and he was so great. He's a great writer. A lot of people don't know he wrote quite a few things. He wrote Haunted Honeymoon. He wrote Young Frankenstein. Mel Brooks gets the credit for that movie, but Wilder wrote it. Mel just directed. But the whole thing where Willy Wonka comes out with the cane and the cane gets stuck and he falls and does that flip and ta-da, you know?
Right.
And
Yep.
that was all Gene's idea. That was a bargaining chip for him. He said, if I can't do that, I'm not doing the movie.
Right.
And the director was like, why would you want to do that? He says, because from that moment on, no one will know if I'm ever telling the truth.
Oh, nice.
And throughout the rest of the film, that becomes this thing that just kind of sits on your shoulder like a homunculus going, does he really mean this or does he not mean this?
Right.
I can't figure this guy out. And it adds a tension to the film that at the end becomes this huge payoff.
Right.
And you roll it back to that moment and like, that's where it started. It was great.
Yeah.
It was genius.
Yeah. No, and then that was that old like vaudevillian showmanship that he had for sure.
Mhm.
That was just like, it just brought something entirely different to that. I loved him in Blazing Saddles. I mean, my gosh, like just like whatever,
Another movie that could not get made.
No, God, never, never, ever.
Nope.
But yeah, some of those great ones. Well, so onto the gate. Just I know we drift from it a little bit.
Well,
But
that's my ADHD.
can you give me an example of something other than traditional publishing where gatekeeping seems to creep in? You know, whether it's an opinion thing or whether it's from fellow writers or something along those lines. Is there somewhere where you see it, or you tend to see, or you feel like you see it more often now than we used to?
I have opinions. Okay. Like most people. But I find that in some places, and I'm going to avoid specifics because it's to me, it's not that big a deal,
Right.
really, because I figure my work is going to stand or fall on its own.
For sure.
People are either going to like it or they're not going to like it. I mean, I remember, you know, because you can get a 1-star review for really stupid stuff. I remember one of the books that I helped write, I co-authored with a guy under that pen name, got a 1-star review by a guy who admitted in the review he didn't read the book.
Of course.
He read the blurb. Sense. He didn't like the blurb, so he gave it a 1-star review.
Yes,
I'm like, can we not get this removed? Why?
Right.
And it's still up there as far as I know. This 1-star review that he didn't like the blurb. So, well, but
go figure.
I find that when I hang out with some groups of writers, I can speak my mind freely no matter what I think. And somebody might give me grief for it, but nobody's going to go away mad. Right. Nobody's going to go away mad. Nobody's going to try to cancel me.
For sure.
There are some other groups that I hang out with that I find myself self-censoring.
Yep.
I was like, I'm not going to join in this conversation. It's like your Facebook thing that just keeps scrolling. Not talking about this. I'm not talking. And I used to be very, very political. And over time, and here comes your controversy for the show. This is the controversial portion of the show, kids. I've come to realize that American politics, you know, this whole right, left, Robin Williams, somebody mentioned him in the chat. Robin Williams did this bit where Peter Lorre was Henry Kissinger in the Phantom of Congress, and he would hang around in Congress and go, Mr. President, look, Cambodia, Nicaragua, Cambodia, Nicaragua, Cambodia, Nicaragua. Okay? In my head, I picture him now going Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat.
Yeah,
Republican.
for sure.
There's no difference in it. The differences are contrived. They're invented. They're scripted. Congress has become reality TV, and especially post-Trump. And they're both the flip sides of the same uniparty coin.
Right.
And so they're not interested in solving anything. They're interested in kicking cans down the road, but they sure have a lot of people convinced that they're out to help, don't they?
No, they're doing it all for me.
Yeah. Oh, they so care.
No. I've met my share of narcissists, and I can pretty much spot them all when they're on TV talking to me. So like it's
John Wilkins mentioned George Carlin just now in the chat. So
and
that was another. He was very prescient. He was like, "Welcome to the oligarchy, population, not you."
he was ahead of his time with a lot of that,
Oh,
for
way ahead.
sure. Yeah,
Way ahead.
way ahead. And more recently, even, and this brings me to something else that's actually related to gatekeeping too. If you look at a guy like Dave Chappelle, right?
Hmm.
Who'll go out there and he'll state his opinion, and it's hysterical. I think he's probably the funniest person on the planet at this point. And
Only because Mitch Hedberg died, but that's okay.
look, what if Bigfoot is blurry? It's my favorite one. That when he did the whole thing about the Pringles can, where it's like, what if they were actually a tennis ball factory, but they got a shipment of potatoes? And so
He
they
said,
just
"Screw it,
decided to
cut him up."
yeah, just cut him up. Oh, I love Mitch Hedberg. Are you kidding? That's
He's
fantastic.
great. Smokey the
But no,
Bear,
Chappelle
way
is
more
like
intense in person.
Chappelle's the kind of guy where it's like he'll state these things, and he has that frank George Carlin kind of conversation with you. And then he just slips in the funnies and all that kind of stuff. And people can't stand him for it and want to cancel him over it. But it seems like that trick is to just not abide. Like you only get canceled when you give somebody the power to actually cancel you. Yeah. And so, I learned that lesson just watching these kinds of things where it's like, sure, I'll have an opinion and somebody may disagree with my opinion. Mm-hmm. But like I'm not going to give somebody power over me to have me just censor myself in some way. And I'm not going to deliver anything in a way that's mean-spirited, so to speak.
I just do it because number one, I hate conflict. I know it's funny. I'm a writer and I'm all about conflict when I'm writing because that's what makes a story. But in real life, I can't. I hate conflict. I hate arguments. I used to love them. But then eventually I learned that nobody's listening to anybody.
Right.
Everybody's just thinking about the next thing they're going to say. And so nobody's learning, nobody's growing. What's the point?
Right.
There's no point to it. And I don't enjoy it anyway. So I just stopped. And this is why I self-censor in certain groups, because I don't want to go through it. I just don't.
Yeah, you're not gonna change somebody's mind on Facebook that you met 10 minutes ago. Like that's just not like what you have. You will be more enlightening if you just run into the wall. So there's that. It honestly reminds me of that was the whole line in Men in Black where he says a person is smart, people are dumb, panicky, whatever it is, and it's like, that's true. Like, I feel like you can sit down with an individual that you disagree with and you can have a conversation, whatever it is, and just be like, all right, we disagree. You can't do that
one-on-one.
You can't do that on Jitter though, because everybody's watching. Yeah. And so when somebody knows there's an audience, all of a sudden it's like this puffed up back and forth because you're trying to just like get the other person. So like they end up going
the
back
internet. The internet was supposed to be the great unifying technology of our age. Unfortunately, all it did was make it easier for us to go tribal.
Oh, for sure.
Because we could go out and find other members of our tribe and then lock everybody else out. Unfortunately, it developed to the point where you had entire companies locking entire groups of people out. You've heard of the shadow banning and the outright banning and all of that stuff that goes on, the algorithm voodoo that they do, and all that happens, and all it does is contribute to more tribalism.
Right.
Instead of the unifying thing. So it's kind of funny. I guess it's kind of, I don't know, prophetic. Sci-fi used to be there used to be a lot of utopias.
That's good.
Used to be a lot. What's popular now? Huh?
Yeah.
Dystopian, crappy futures where everybody's at everybody's throats all the time.
Everybody's miserable and teenagers.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like, well, it's
Logan's Run on steroids.
Kind of on brand, actually. Like, it's not that far off. It is fascinating because that is part of the whole cultural shift that happened. And honestly, like modern media, modern stuff. And it seems like the switch was not that long ago, but most of the modern stuff that's come out, at least to me, it just feels like trash. I stopped watching Marvel before Endgame because I was just tired of it. You know, I like forget. Don't even get me started on Star Wars or like or anything else. I'm like, well,
I just did an episode. It hasn't come out yet. It'll come out, I think, on September 15th, with JR Hanley, the Blades and Blasters podcast, where we had a big Star Wars discussion. And I don't know how long those shows are supposed to last, but you get a bunch of sci-fi geeks. We went for almost 2 hours, and nobody was ready to quit. We were all, of course, because we were praising things and griping about stuff and criticizing things. And
he had me jump on there last week or the week before, right? And they're like, all right, you're a noob, so is it Star Trek or Star Wars for you? And I'm like, do I have to? And then finally,
and that's the thing. I like both. I've got a Star Trek wall in my office. I've got a Star Wars wall. I got
right. Well, then like thankfully, like they bailed me out because they're like, okay, like what about Conan? And I'm like, Conan's the one.
I saw that. Was the Aliens episode.
That was the Aliens episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, Conan, like I can settle with Conan the Barbarian, and I'm perfectly happy.
I think we actually discussed Conan a little bit because on the other one, the Star Wars episode that we shot, because it came to light that they started talking about the Wheel of Time and how some of them just never read it. and I didn't read it, but I'm not a Robert Jordan hater. I loved all of his Conan novels. I was a huge Conan novel reader. Savage Sword of Conan magazine, Ernie Chan art in Marvel Comics back in the day. Loved Conan. I love the What If episode issue where Conan ends up taking on Captain America. You know, it was good stuff. Loved Conan. But yeah, my answer to their religion question was Firefly, but that's just me.
Right.
I think Firefly was probably one of the most culturally realistic speculative fiction shows that I've seen in a long time.
Right. Along with Dr. Horrible.
Doctor.
I love Dr. Horrible. That was great.
That role as Captain Hammer.
Throwing another one up here too.
Earned Nathan Fillion the role of Green Lantern Guy Gardner.
No kidding.
In the upcoming new reboot of Superman from James Gunn. And I'm excited because I've wanted Nathan Fillion to play Hal Jordan for a long time, and he did. He provided his voice to the character in a lot of DC anime. DC did some good animation. Right. You got to give them that. Their movies were awful, but they did some really good animation. Justice League Dark with Constantine, Zatanna, the Spectre, Deadman, and Batman hanging out with all these mystical weirdos. It was great. But they did a lot of great animation. And in several of those, they did some Green Lantern movies, and Nathan Fillion was there as Hal Jordan. I'm like, yes.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see him play Guy Gardner, because Guy Gardner, I think, is more in line with Nathan's actual personality.
Sure.
Because he's a prankster. He's a jokester.
Absolutely.
He's kind of a smart aleck. And so, I think Guy Gardner's the man that mooned Batman while outside the Justice League watchtower.
That's good. That's fantastic.
So I think that'll work.
Well, I want to move on to a couple other things, but do you have something else on gatekeeping that's just in your head? You sent me a couple things in Discord, and I don't know that we touched on all of them, but if there's one that you need to get off your chest, now's the time.
I think the one that really bothers me the most is the fact that there's a new, I guess this is the next phase of gatekeeping.
Okay.
And this is the one I think that bothers me the most, is fan gatekeeping.
Right. You mentioned that. Yeah. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
It used to be you would put stuff out for the fans. You knew what the fans of any given intellectual property were after, and it's why they liked that intellectual property. Okay. Now there are some generational differences. For example, I loved classic Star Trek because of the gunboat diplomacy, but I'm a Cold War kid. Okay. I'm Generation X. We were the last generation of feral children. We grew up in that environment, and gunboat.
We drank from the garden hose.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
You did not come home before the street lights came on.
Right.
Be home then, but don't come home before.
Right.
So there's something in the chat I need to address.
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a minute. But
Which one?
then you had
Battletech?
it's the from Shellback Bow, Battletech and Gatekeeping. What do you
All right,
mean?
I'll throw that up as your reminder. Yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly what they're talking about. But no, the fan gatekeeping, like look at Star Wars. When the Phantom Menace came out, people who were fans of the original trilogy despised the prequel trilogy.
Right.
I wasn't crazy about it. I got mad when they did the whole midichlorian thing because I thought you just completely demystified the Force for me. Thanks for that.
Right.
George. I know it's your property, but dude, tone deaf much?
Oh,
anyway,
don't even.
So there was that. And then the sequels came out, and people that love the prequels were like, what are you doing?
Right.
And so there was tremendous fan backlash. There's been tremendous fan backlash at Disney over their Marvel projects, their television stuff.
Oh God. Yeah.
Because, and here's why, they are doing the reverse of what a good writer does. A good writer takes a worthy character, runs them through the meat grinder of situations, and changes that character over the course of the story, and they come out at the other end better than they were before. It's the hero's journey.
Well,
that's the story. It's been the story the whole time. It never changed. We just insert different stuff in it to flip it up and make it more interesting.
Right.
I like redemption arcs. Galaxy's Most Wanted is a four-book redemption arc.
This is how we resonate with characters.
This is where people can resonate with their characters.
Yep.
So, but what they started doing was they started this bait and switch. Hawkeye, great example. Let's do a show about Hawkeye. Oh, but let's replace Hawkeye with this girl.
Yeah.
And she's now the star of the show, and Hawkeye is a tertiary character in his own show.
Right.
They did the same thing in The Mandalorian. Mandalorian season 1 was fantastic. Loved every second of it. Thought it was going to save Star Wars. Season 2 and 3 rolls around. Book of Boba Fett rolls around. Both The Mandalorian and Boba Fett were replaced by female characters as the main characters of their story.
Well,
Am I against female characters? No, I'm not against female characters.
No, I want Gina Carano on that show.
Right. Yeah. That's another example. But fans started griping about it. And here's the flip side of what I'm talking about. When the fans get upset, the content creators are now attacking the fans.
Yeah.
They'll turn around and say, well, this project failed because of these fans being misogynist, or these fans,
all of these fans are racist.
Yeah, these fans are racist, or these fans. I'm like, no, it's because you couldn't write a good story if somebody put a gun to your head. Somebody putting a gun to a writer's head would actually be a better story than what you wrote.
Right.
So there was that. The gatekeeping that they just mentioned in Battletech, that's all Blaine Lee Pardoe. Blaine Lee Pardoe was one of my favorite authors. I love Battletech. I'm a massive Battletech fan. I've been playing the tabletop since I was a kid. Played it while I was in the Army. I loved the Mech Warrior video game franchise. I'm wearing a Mech Warrior shirt, dudes. Team Bonsai represent. No guts, no galaxy. Then Blaine Lee Pardoe, it comes out that he's got some opinions that some people don't agree with.
Right.
And so he was basically just fired. You can't write Battletech anymore.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And so now you would think that would be a defeat. You would think that would be a bad thing. And to me, it kind of was, because I enjoyed his Battletech novels immensely. But no, what is Blaine Lee goes out and just reinvents himself, says, fine, I'm going to write my own stuff. Don't care.
Right.
And his own stuff has just skyrocketed. It's huge.
Go figure.
And, he's writing political thrillers on one side, and he's writing this mecha series on the other side, which isn't Battletech, but it's just as good, even better, actually. That's an example of what you were talking about, where somebody takes all that canceling attempts and just says, nah, don't care.
Right. Well, think about, do you know Eric July?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ripaverse is a perfect example.
Let me show you something.
Because do you have it?
I can't show you. Because there's all these wires in my computer, but ISOM number 1 is on my wall. right underneath Rick Raygun #1 and The Adventures of Buckaroo
Nice.
Banzai.
I have signed ISOM 1 and I've got signed and graded ISOM 2 that I have
I
for it.
didn't
But
get ISOM 2.
I've been following Eric July for like a lot of years before he had
Oh yeah,
before the
when he was
Backwards
just a content creator. Yeah.
yeah, before the Backwards album came out, and I had pre-ordered Backwards before it came out. And it was really, really interesting to just see his genesis in what he's becoming now, you know, where look, not everybody can just launch and hit with a $3.5 million campaign off of a comic book that nobody's ever heard of before.
Unless your last name is Sanderson.
Well, there's that. So, but to see how he's like, you know what, I don't need the distributors. I don't need anybody. I just want to make my book. And then you have, and this is the most baffling thing, you have people that absolutely want to tear him down. They're trying to get people to sue him and everything because they don't like that he had success. And that's the only reason, you know, and he did it his own way. But that's a perfect example of getting around a gatekeeper. And it's
and that's the thing.
It's
the comic
Marvel,
book
it's the distribution. It's like, it's all the things that he was just like, screw it. I'm just going to, everything's on my own. You know, I'm going to hire the illustrator. I'm going to hire the writer. I'm going to like, well, he writes for it, but you know, now he's got Chuck Dixon, like involved in the project. Like, you know, just watching this kind of stuff as a small time, like as a self-published guy, this gives me like a ton of hope of like, all right, like there's things I can do. I may not be able to do it perfectly and I can't devote 80 hours a week to it, you know, but I can make my own way on it. That was the one thing that I did for my debut novel was like, I was determined to not have somebody chop it up. I was determined not to sit in the doldrums of querying for 4 years, you know, or whatever. Like, I'm just not going there, like to see it, because at the same point, like you've got to do all your marketing anyway. Let me do the marketing, you know? And I had decent success with that book. I mean, it's sitting on Amazon right now with 160 plus reviews and it's 5 stars. Like I'm good, you know, like I'm happy with it. But a lot of people feel like they have to kowtow to whoever it is that's holding the keys for where they want to go, you know? And it's sad to see because it's stifling a lot of creativity.
And it shouldn't, though. That's the point. The same technology that I just talked about a minute ago that was supposed to unite us but didn't,
right,
also gave us the ability to become content creators all on our own, no matter what we do. How many people have you seen do a 30-second video on TikTok or YouTube and become overnight sensations, and suddenly they're everywhere? I've seen people that I used to watch on YouTube show up in TV commercials and television show episodes, and you know, it's just astonishing.
Right.
So the technology is out there now that, you know, you can, if you're creative, you can do it.
Right.
There are vehicles out there for you to harness. And I love Eric July. I love what he's done. My only gripe, I do have a gripe with Eric, and it's not personal. It's just that all the money that he raised, and I don't know. I'm not him. I wasn't there. I don't know what challenges he faced or whatever. But you get that much money, it seems to me it would take a little bit less time than however long it took between ISOM #1 and ISOM #2 to come.
Right. It did take some time.
Where is it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What do you mean you're doing another Kickstarter for the second issue? What?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that was upsetting, and that's probably why I didn't buy issue #2, because I don't want to get back invested in that story and then wait another 6 to 8 months for issue #3.
Right. I know. You're gonna have to just buy them for 2 years and not read them. Like, that's easy.
Yeah. Let me know when the trade paperback comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Let me know when it's the, you know, what did Marvel do? They had like their giant graphic novel, like extravaganza once a year, where it was like 200 pages of X-Men stories or whatever else.
Yeah, they used to do that. But then what they started, they got smart and they started taking very popular story arcs and putting them together in a trade paperback. Like, you remember back when Frank Miller and Chris Claremont reinvented Wolverine? Do you remember that? That was back in the 80s. They did a 4-issue limited series. Up until that point, Wolverine was kind of a nobody berserker who showed up every few episodes and attacked the Hulk for no reason. And that was all he was, and that's all he did. Well, they took and they did this storyline where he goes to Japan to find
Right.
Mariko Yashida
Okay.
because
Yeah.
they were a romantic couple, and all of a sudden she cuts all ties to him, and he wants to know why, and he goes there, and that's when he gets involved with the hand and all this, and
Right. Right.
they
Right.
changed him from a basically stupid berserker into a failed Ronin,
Yeah, for sure.
and this became the core of his character all the way up to today.
Well, that's why these characters are what they are, and they're not just one-dimensional, things. But it, like, sadly, it's starting to get back towards that, where it's like the most important thing about the character is their, like, who they identify as, or something along those lines. And it's like, I need a character that's a lot deeper than that, and that's more than that,
Yeah.
because I want to be able to resonate with that story.
And that
My
was
favorite was when
Wolverine's
they always
story.
went off and did those, like, separate, 7-issue series. I actually have I have the full one of Longshot, issues 1 through 1. He was my favorite X-Men. Okay, yep. If it's a Longshot thing, then hell yeah.
Are you ready?
Show me. Stop it. How freaking fantastic is that? Oh my gosh,
He's
that's
even
great.
he's got the proper number of fingers.
Yeah, yep. He had one less digit.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I found this just on a
That's-
shelf at a store in Memphis called Animated Jacks, and it's where I got the majority of those Green Lantern action figures behind me too.
Nice. Yeah.
They were just out on the shelf, and I was like, "Oh, you're all mine. You're all mine." Right. But yeah, I never even knew a long shot action figure was a thing until that day, and I was so happy because I love long shot. Probability field manipulation. That's like one of the coolest powers ever.
It absolutely was. Yeah, because it could go wrong, but it would go right. Yeah, and that one was done by gosh, who was I gotta look it up real quick, who the artist was on that.
My wife is in the chat. She just said, "So glad he has his own office for all those toys." They used to be all over our family room, and she couldn't stand it. They were everywhere.
I want to say it was Arthur Adams. Right.
Yeah.
It was Arthur. Yeah, that was they were illustrated so perfectly. I love those.
And the trade paperbacks though are really cool because they'll take a great story arc like that 4-issue limited series I mentioned a minute ago from Claremont and Miller.
Right.
You can get that as a trade paperback now.
Oh, nice.
All 4 issues in one book. And there was a series where the X-Men and the New Mutants and Alpha Flight all teamed up and went to Asgard.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah, there you go.
And it was the New Mutants in Asgard. And it was fantastic. It was a great series. I loved it.
Right.
Sam Guthrie, Cannonball, ends up hanging out with the dwarves that actually made Thor's hammer. And
nice.
it was just all this cool stuff. And what was the girl's name? The Native American girl who was the illusionist. She became like a Valkyrie.
Right.
And a chooser of the slain. And it was just the whole story was cool. Nice. And then Kitty Pryde gets up in Loki's face and telling him off. And
I see. That's a good
great series. And that's available trade paperback. But
right.
more to your point, you can also find like 10 years worth of old 60s era Green Lantern comics in one big thick book.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
I need to get my hands on some of that old Conan stuff because I used to have the old comics. I don't know where they ran off to.
Savage Sword of Conan. I think I had every issue of Savage Sword of Conan. Now I don't know if you're familiar with that. That was the black and white format, magazine size,
right?
Monthly Conan book, usually featuring Ernie Chan pencils.
Nice.
And I had probably about 6 or 7 years worth of that.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Missed an issue. And I let a friend borrow them. Somebody broke into his house that weekend and stole all of his guns and my comics.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was bad. It was very bad.
Well, I have a couple things I want to run down here. And I just thought, like, hey, let's do something fun, right? We had a good chat about gatekeeping. So I went ahead and I started asking ChatGPT to give me bad writing advice. So I'm going to throw up a couple of these, and we're going to go through them. And I just want to get your feedback on some of these, and ask you a question about them. All right. So,
ChatGPT scares me.
oh, here we go. This is going to be great. We're going to embrace the AI just for a moment, but only for comedic purposes.
Okay, that I can
Right.
do.
Here
I'll
comes
do almost anything for a laugh.
here comes awful writing advice from ChatGPT. Always write in Comic Sans because nothing says professional author like Comic Sans. Do you have a preferred like, how do you write, first of all, just like on this question, Comic Sans bitches? Do you write, are you just straight to like online? Do you do Word? Do you write by hand? Do you write
I've done
triplicate?
several. I've done a couple of different things. The ghostwriting I did in Google Docs
Okay.
because it allowed the editors immediate access to what I was working on, and if things started to go awry, they could chime in and leave a comment, and I would
Sure.
get notified of it almost immediately. It was very good for collaboration. The problem I had with Google Docs was it ate an entire manuscript once.
Oh no.
And thank God it wasn't a ghostwriting project. It was just a personal project that I'd been working on the side.
Right.
But I lost, I have 60,000 words or so, easy.
Oh.
And just unretrievable. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. You never wrote
that. That's no good. Yeah. That's
So
no good.
I stopped using Google Docs and I started using Word.
Right.
And I thought, hey, this auto save feature to the cloud is pretty cool. But
Right.
then I was like, wait a minute. Hey, moron, you did 10 years as an IT technician. If anybody knows that the cloud is just stashing your stuff on somebody else's computer,
For sure.
it's
No
you.
difference.
And so I lost another chunk of a manuscript with that. Now, did that turn me off of Word? No. I like Word. I'm used to Word. I've been using it since it was very, very young.
Yep.
On an old 286 computer, you would turn on the computer, go make a sandwich.
Word for DOS. Yeah.
Come back, open Word, and go watch a game. It might be ready by the time the game's over. So anyway, I still use Word, but I no longer use the cloud backup as I go. I save and work from a flash drive. Okay. And then I save that document to the cloud in Word, my autosave folder, right? And then to another flash drive. So I have 3 copies all the time.
Right.
I'm never losing a manuscript again. It just
I have it. I use I'm on a Mac, so I use an app called Ulysses, and it's actually really nice because it does go straight to iCloud, but I've got it on like my desktop Mac, my iMac, I've got it on my laptop, and I've got it on my phone. So whenever if I write something on the phone, it has a local copy on all 3, and it has a cloud copy as well. Mm-hmm. So even if like something happens, you can go to a different one. It'll say, yeah, do you want to just like restore this one and you're good? It's never happened, but like I'm good. All right. So next one from ChatGPT. Great writing advice. Editing is for the weak. ChatGPT says, don't bother editing. Your first draft is already a masterpiece, and typos add character.
That's not what Vonnegut said.
How much do you edit? Do you edit as you go? Let's do that first. Are you an editor as you go?
Okay. I do something, and this is how I used to write 1,500 words a week, or maybe 2,000 words a week.
Yep.
A week. That was ridiculously slow. And then I started hanging out at 3 Ravens. They run writing sprints every morning.
Yep.
I get in there. They're up way earlier than I am. I get up at 4 and I feel accomplished. But it takes me till 4:30 to get the caffeine pill washed down with the coffee to
right. Yeah, exactly.
Insert toothpicks and whatnot.
But awkward orange,
like Wile E. Coyote, like Mojo
with the eye drops, so you can just keep writing. Yeah.
But doing those sprints, I started to get faster, and when I started outlining properly, I got even faster. So I've gotten to the point now where I can do 15,000 words a week.
Right.
So that's about 3,000 words a day.
Nice.
And that's between the hours of like 4:30 and 8 a.m. There's a couple of days a week I'll work all the way up until noon or later,
Huh.
and do some catch up there, and I'll do some
Right, right,
catch
right.
up on a Saturday because I have a day job, and
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
involves some nights and some weekends. So, but I typically don't start editing unless there's like a big long string of red.
Right,
And
right,
oh
right.
yeah, those words are horribly mistyped, and I'm not even going to know what the heck I was trying to say. And when
Right,
I
right,
go
right.
back and look at it, so I'll fix that. But as far as fixing stuff in the story, unless it's something that affects something I've already written or something down the line,
Yep.
then no, I don't generally mess with it. But I will sometimes run across and I'll write something. Oh, you know what? This would be really great if I foreshadowed it back here.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll jump back 3 or 4 chapters and insert a line or something that kind of foreshadows what I just wrote.
Yeah, I've
That's
done
the
that.
kind of
I've done
editing I'll
that a
do on the
lot.
fly. But if anybody out there who wants to be a writer and you see editing advice like this, no. The
No.
first draft of anything is
Right.
crap.
Yeah.
What,
I do enough of the edit as I go that by the time I get to that last chapter, like it's relatively clean, because that's just the way my brain works. I have to work in these steps. I like, like 10 minutes of edits, like to just go reread the last chapter I wrote, 10 minutes, play with it, move it around, tighten a couple things up. Okay. I'm writing the new, and I'll usually do that in stages of like 3 chapters and 3 chapters. So like if I'm writing chapters, 7, 8, and 9, then I'll go through 4, 5, and 6 first and just like make sure things are tightened up. And so almost like a caterpillar, right? It goes through. That's how
yeah,
I kind of go through it.
that's not bad.
It
I
works
know.
for me because I can't sit and edit for a long stretch of time. It takes my soul away. I can't do it. Right.
Mhm.
So like I have to do it in some stages while I'm writing something else, tightening something up, throwing in some ideas, doing a little bit of research. I have to kind of be scattered that way. But, by the time I get to the end of it, I'm like, all right, this isn't too bad. And then most of my edits aren't major edits at the end. It's just, again, it's more of the tightening stuff up and all that. Let's go for another one. I got 3 more for you.
Okay. I just want to say one last thing on editing.
Yeah.
One of my heroes, Raymond Chandler, the creator of Philip Marlowe, said, as far as writing goes, and this is bad. He wrote in the 30s and 40s, so
Right.
this is a little dated, but the advice is still good. He said, throw up on your typewriter every morning, clean it up in the afternoon. Because, and there's science that backs this up. One of the reasons I started writing early in the morning is because I discovered research that said you're most creative first thing in the day. Your brain is firing, the synapses are kicking in, with or
Right.
without caffeine. Whether you're a caffeine junkie like me or not, morning is the best time to write. Your brain shifts gears later in the day and becomes more analytical.
Right.
It just happens. So editing later in the day is a much better process than editing first thing in the morning.
I saw advice somewhere that was write drunk, edit not sober. I forget exactly what it was. Something like that. I think it was Hemingway.
Hunter F. Thompson?
I think it was Hemingway. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah. That'd be the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, just drank. So some awful writing advice. It's never enough. Use long, flowery sentences, says ChatGPT. Readers love getting lost in overwrought, meandering prose. So I'm curious. How do you weigh your prose to dialogue? Like, how do you weigh your description to dialogue in your works?
There's a lot of good books out there about fixing that. I know that in my earlier days, like within the last 5 years, when I first started trying to do this seriously,
Right.
with the intent of eventually making a living at it and quitting the day job and writing full time, like some of my more recent heroes have, J.N. Chaney, Jeff Haskell, Scott Moon used to be a police officer. He finally took that leap and he's doing full time now.
Yeah.
All 3 amazing authors. But one of the problems that I had early on was very, very wordy paragraphs, great, big, massive paragraphs.
Right.
That you hit them and it's like walking through wet cement. You just slow down.
Yeah.
And I had to learn one of the things one of my early mentors taught me was that, look, you can take this paragraph and break it up into like 3 paragraphs and it'll read a lot faster. And then I learned that 1 sentence paragraphs make an action sequence feel like it's happening.
Oh, heck yeah.
100 miles an hour.
For sure.
Even though it's not. But you can take that same amount of text from an action sequence, put it in 1 paragraph, and it slows you down. It drags.
This is a great.
So yeah, I had to learn how to shorten stuff, and I had to learn how to be more concise. I would try to think of really cool words that would. But you know, one thing that does it annoy you that you have to go look up a word that you run across?
I mean,
in a book.
Well, that depends. You typically yes, but like if I'm sitting down and I'm reading Lovecraft, I read it with a dictionary next to me. You know,
I'm not talking about, you know, like I'll occasionally have to look things up if I'm reading Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie.
Right.
And there are words that she used, and there are words that are out of date, no longer in fashion, and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's okay. That when you're reading something from a different era or something, maybe if you're reading technical writing or something like that, I don't mind. But if somebody uses just a really freaky word that means shiny,
right.
Why didn't you just use shiny?
Why did you just use shiny?
I mean, everybody knows shiny. Nobody has to go look it up.
Well, like I'm with you for sure on when that stuff creeps into dialogue tags. Like I don't want to see like he pontificated. Like I don't need that. No. You know, I'm like, just keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Better. I
used to have a lot of trouble with dialogue tags too, but
I like when the characters have their voice, and I don't need to use them. Because you know who's talking, you know, and so that's always like those are
character voice is a good thing, and that was another hurdle that I had to jump over. All of my characters sounded like me, and that's a problem, you know. So, in addition to giving characters unique voices, I also had to learn. I had a problem with dialogue tags. I was using said and replied and asked almost exclusively.
Right.
And one of my earlier mentors was like, dude, you guys look. Why don't you have this character do something before they speak? And that way you don't need a tag and we know who did it. And then if there's only 2 people in the room, the next guy that talks is the other guy.
The other person.
You know, and you don't need a tag there either. Right. But then in typical Michael P. LaVoice fashion, I went completely the other direction and I turned in something, I think it was like 2 chapters. There were no dialogue tags.
There was nothing.
Every bit of dialogue was preceded by an action. And she was like, no, it's not what I meant. You know, so, but you have to find that balance, and you've obviously done, but yeah, those really flowery ones, like intoned. He intoned. What is he the preacher guy from Princess Bride? Marriage. No.
Right. All right. So speaking of, here's some better advice. Mystery dialogue. ChatGPT says, never use dialogue tags. Readers will love guessing who's speaking in your word maze.
Believe it or not, there are some people that can get away with that.
Yeah, it depends.
You know who can get away with that? Elmore Leonard could get away with that. He had a knack for giving his characters unique speech patterns.
Right.
And I remember reading the first Raylan Givens novel that I read called Pronto. And this is a novel in which Raylan Givens is a side character. He's not the main character. Raylan Givens didn't start out. For those of you who are unschooled, Raylan Givens is a United States Marshal from Harlan, Kentucky, who eventually was turned into a television show called Justified. Look it up. Right. It's on Hulu. Great show.
It is a great show.
Taylor Leonard, Elmore's son, was one of the executive producers on the show. And Elmore himself, until he died, worked very closely with the writers on that show. Right. But he had, in Pronto, there were whole pages of dialogue, and you knew exactly who was talking. Sometimes he used an action tag, okay, every once in a while. But the way he had these guys talking, you knew, oh, that's Harry. Oh, and that's the guy he's in with. And that's the drug dealer, and that's Raylan. And, you know, you just knew who was talking from the way they spoke. And that's something I've tried to emulate. I give my characters voices. In Galaxy's Most Wanted, My main character is a slightly better educated South Side Chicago kid.
Okay.
So he's lippy and he's got a chip on his shoulder, but he's educated because he reads a lot. He's a planner. He reads history. He reads all kinds of stuff. So
Gotcha.
his brother barely got out of high school, and his brother's speech is modeled on an actual South Side Chicagoan that I was in the Army with named LeGrand. And he had kind of a voice of, "What are you doing over there, you moron?" You know, and it's just classic South Side sass. And then another character that's also a South Side Chicagoan criminal has that same kind of vernacular. And I made sure I looked up South Side Chicago idioms, things that these people use in their speech that
For sure.
people outside of Chicago don't use.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so you give each character a voice like that, and then sometimes you don't need the tag.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. I'm from Jersey. You hear people say "use guys" instead of "you guys." You're in
My
Jersey.
mother-in-law is from Pittsburgh. She says
Okay.
Ewans.
What is it?
Ewans. It's
Ewans?
like the Pittsburgh version of y'all.
I didn't know there was a thing.
It's the Pittsburgh version of use guys.
Well, I had a fun time because as soon as I got back from LibertyCon, I'm like, all right, the deadline to submit something for the Three Ravens came from the trailer park was 3 days after I got back. So I'm like, can I throw out 8,000 words in 3 days and edit it and finish it up? And I'm like, it's rednecks. Like, damn right I can. Like, yeah, of course. Like, this is just gonna flow.
I'm from Kentucky.
But it was things like that where it was like little changes in the dialogue that I started noticing as I was writing it. Instead of "look at those cars," it would be like "look at them cars." Just like slight little twists on the words in the speech. And I was looking some of it up to just see, and like also like what are some like colloquial phrases.
Sure.
Cat in the meat house, I think, was one of them. Tied up like a cat in a meat house or something like that. I'm like,
you ever get to
that's
use
going in the story.
Cattywampus is a great one.
Cattywampus, yep.
Yeah. There's a character in Galaxy's Most Wanted Book 1 who is from deep South Mississippi.
Right.
He's been in space for about 30 years. One of the things that Kai discovers is there's a lot of humans out in space that he didn't know were out there. They get picked up and they find jobs and they live in space. They're out there now.
Right.
And one of these guys was working on the pirate ship that he gets captured onto, and he's like an engineer there. But for him, instead of saying they were, he says they was.
Yeah. Nice.
Stuff like that, Well, I expect they was just drunk or whatever, something like that. And you can hear the corn pone if you use the right phraseology. And then you give them stuff like you were saying, little phrases to say like cattywampus or madder than a wet hen. That's another one.
What was it?
Madder than a wet hen.
Madder than a wet hen. All right, that's good.
Or he described one particularly prideful race as a group who gets up every morning just to hear themselves crow.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's
comparing them to a rooster, basically.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. It's the same thing with like writing anything. I mean, it's obviously like super stereotypical, but if it's anything remotely British, I'm saying stuff like "Bob's your uncle," and "Fanny's your aunt," and all that.
That was something else I wanted to do. I thought it would be great if we had, because everybody in sci-fi has translators, right? All the aliens speak English for some reason.
Of course, yeah.
On shows like Star Trek, and I thought, well, we've got Douglas Adams did the Babel fish, right?
Right.
So why not have a translator device that these guys have shoved into their ear after they're first captured? The problem is it's only got 2 settings for English: redneck or red coat.
Nice.
So depending on which setting you choose, everybody either sounds like they're from Alabama or London.
Right.
That's all you get.
No, that's good. I like it. Yeah. I've been having fun with that and my whole space thing that I've got going on now. But it's funny, just space pew pew. Yep.
Yes.
Just on the dialogue. Well, thank you. On the dialogue tags, what I found is that like, okay, I've got a civilization that are the space capybara, right? And they tend to refer to themselves in the third person. So like that's how who's speaking through that. I have a mad scientist that he's mycelium based civilization, right? So he's a mushroom. And highly advanced and intelligent. But all of his dialogue has to be very short and to the point because he's more of the kind of logical and stuff like that. And then, just playing with those has actually just been a lot of fun because it is kind of a challenge. How do you're in space? How do I get these characters to sound different? And then starting to play around with like, okay, like there's a different language that's Euclidean, and then there's ancient Terran, and then there's post Terran, and like stuff like that, just to kind of mix it all in. But ultimately, it's just supposed to be stupid, so I don't really care all that much. I just want it to be funny. Let's do one more here. Awful writing advice.
As far as aliens and their speech patterns, after book 1, the translators go away.
Right.
Because he gets cerebral implants that do the translation function. So the translation device itself assigns accents. But to your point, I have one race that their verb and language structures, they always refer to themselves in third person.
Right.
They do that all the time. Like Ron is this, or Ron is that.
Yep.
Ron will go take care of this, And then there's another race that I'm particularly pleased with creating called the Gensoon, and they're like the bankers of the galaxy. They control all the money, and but I thought this would be great if, number one, they're androgynous, because they're, how like hyenas they're hermaphroditic, and depending on population needs, they can switch to male or female as needed.
Right, similar to like frogs and stuff like that.
I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you had a race that if there was a sudden population dearth, that they could manifest as either male or female.
Right.
Just depends on what they need.
Right.
And I thought, these guys are the bankers of the universe. So they started controlling resources as a survival strategy when they were first evolving. And now they control all the money.
Right.
But wouldn't it be fun if my main character's translation device, because of the way their verbs are structured and things, it's an analog, and it kind of reminds the translator device of Slavic languages like Russian and Czech. And so it gives them a slight Russian accent.
That's great. Yeah.
So they say things like, pleased to be boarding the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, exactly like you said, it's just fun.
Right, of course, exactly. We're talking about stories in space. Like it's gotta be like that. So some more awful writing advice. ZOMG 11 exclamation and exclamation marks everywhere, says ChatGPT. Your readers will love feeling constantly excited. Are you the type to throw in those things, or are you a he shouted, she shouted, or are you a show the action, say the words?
It depends. I used to use shouted, but I also had a bad habit of when I wanted to emphasize something, I would use all caps. Like if somebody was yelling, I would use all caps, and I got smacked down for that. Yeah, I got smacked down for that pretty hard. And then I learned how to describe a character's face as they were speaking. So when you say the man went red from the neck up and veins bulged on his forehead,
right,
you don't have to type what he says next in all caps, and you definitely don't have to use more than one exclamation mark.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, that's funny though.
You
see a lot of that in fanfic. Don't get me started on fan fiction.
That's okay. I have in Space Pew Pew, I have an Android, and I write the Android in all caps because it is a digitized speaker, and that's how everything's coming out. And I'm like, I'm going through it, and I've seen where some people are like, well, some people that may struggle, like are dyslexic, will have a hard time with the all caps writing. But I'm like, I'm running with this. If I got to change it another time, I will.
Yeah.
But to me,
Crystal,
like
in the chat, Crystal pointed out that Comic Sans actually helps people with dyslexia. They read it easier.
Right.
And that's one of the tricks. I know Jeff Haskell is dyslexic. He's very open about it. And he uses a program called Atticus that allows him to not only change and use Comic Sans type fonts, but it also changes the color of the fonts. That make it easier for him to read.
Yeah, I worked with I worked with somebody a while ago that was like speech therapist, and she would do this thing for kids who are having trouble reading, where she'd put like an overlay, like a red or a blue overlay over the text, and all of a sudden it's like these words are coming out, and sure enough, the color had something to do with it. Well, Michael, we've reached the lightning round. And so we got just a couple more here. And I thought it'd be fun to just throw out some questions to you and see if you can find some answers to these really quick, just in your own brain, right?
Oh,
Yeah, no. I mean, that's if you want to go
I
there,
can't
you can go
consult the
there.
Oracle.
These are
Dang it.
totally these are random questions, right? Just random
Okay.
stuff. I just want to see how you do. Right.
Random stuff that you wrote
First
down
one,
ahead of
lightning
time.
round. Question number 1: the first hockey pucks used in early outdoor hockey games were made of what substance?
Don Rickillium.
I really. I mean, you're
I'm
close.
sorry. Don Rickles, you know, that was his famous insult. What are you looking at, you hockey puck? That was,
Nice.
yeah. So, sorry. That was the first thing that popped into my head. So what were they made of? The first hockey pucks, I don't know. I'm going to say wood, but it's probably wrong.
Cow dung. Frozen cow patties.
What a crappy game.
Talk about hardcore for a sport, right? We're just going to start
Yeah,
slinging
you got to
crap
be
at each other.
dedicated. Can you imagine if the goalie takes one to the mouth?
Oh God. Yeah, they did play
I'll
without
get
helmets.
it.
Yeah, there's
No.
that. We need some more pucks. We lost our puck. Can anybody just go into the
Go
field?
Steve Bessie.
All right, so here's the next one. True or false? The human body has more than 50 sphincters. Look on your face.
On Star Trek or
No, I'm talking real life.
I only know a one, and it's my ex-brother-in-law. No, wait.
I was waiting for something like that to happen. That's good.
It's Devil's Dictionary, the modern version. Flea, a wingless, blood-sucking parasite. See also brother-in-law. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say false.
It is true. They say around 60 are hiding in there. Some
They must be on
microscopic.
the inside. Dear God, I hope they're on the inside.
Yeah, we're all full of it, apparently.
Yeah.
Next time somebody calls you an ale, you'll be like, I'm 60 of those. All right. This is a good one. This one was funny. Your average American does this approximately 22 times every day. What just went in your brain?
Is there an age attached to this?
Like,
are we talking
off the stream
teenagers?
now?
Or,
It's like,
okay.
I got hit with a
Yeah,
plant.
okay.
We couldn't hear each other for a while. Like we're having fun now. So,
I'm gonna say nose picking.
oh, that's good. It's
But
not
that's
the
generally
answer.
just on the commute.
That is.
How many times have you been at a light and you pull up and you look next to you and the guy's like,
There was the whole Seinfeld
"Oh,
episode. The Seinfeld
Right.
episode about it. He's like, there was
It's
no
not
penetration. No, your average American opens the refrigerator approximately 22 times per day. So you'd like
that makes me think of those new fridges that have the video screen on it.
Right.
That takes a picture of what's in the fridge. I don't know who came up with that, but he's a freaking genius.
Yeah. Well, it's also broadcasting your face at 2 a.m. to China or something. So like there's that.
Oh yeah, there's the Internet of Things.
All right, question number 4. So I thought let's go into some geekdom here.
Uh-oh.
What was the name of the pirate in the Goonies?
And you know what? I just watched this. I introduced my own kids, the ones that are still at home,
Nice.
to this movie about 6 months ago.
Loaded with curse words.
It was.
Yeah.
Have you done this? I have these wonderful memories of movies, right? That I thoroughly enjoyed as a younger person. And I say, oh, we got to watch this. And I get the kids in front of it. And all of a sudden, they're dropping all these words and phrases. And I'm like, I'm looking at my wife like, I'm really sorry. I totally forgot about this part. I didn't remember that. I remembered the funny bits, but not this.
Right.
Bit, you know. And the Goonies, that was one of them. The first time, what was it? Corey Feldman?
Corey Feldman. Yep.
It was Corey Feldman in that, not Corey Haim.
Correct.
Not the other Corey. But the first time he dropped the S word, and my wife was like,
yeah.
I know I didn't remember. But no, man, I don't remember the pirate. Somebody in the chat, help me out.
I just introduced my boys to Idiocracy, so like I'm not we went there.
I saw that once, never again.
Look, here it is. Look,
number one, it was prophetic. Still,
you know this.
Yeah, that's my sister.
You know this.
Dadgummit. No, I'm blanking.
Totally blanked. All right, so that was
No.
One-Eyed Willie was the pirate.
One-Eyed
It was One-Eyed Willie the pirate.
How
And
could
then
I not remember
the guy that originally went after them, where they found his body, like in the very beginning of it, you know, because of course, like the kids are going to go by that, was Chester Copperpot, who was the original like guy going after One-Eyed Willie's treasure and the whole thing.
I remember Copperpot because it sounded an awful like Cobblepot, which was the penguin's real name.
I really would. I would like a pet at some point and just name it Chester Copperpot, because I just think it's a great name for a pet. I also would like a I don't know, like I don't want a hamster or a gerbil or anything. I have snakes here, so like that's just kind of rude.
I had a friend that had ferrets,
but maybe
he
like
had a tube farm. He like bought like 10 tube farm kits at a yard sale,
right,
and strung them together with wire all throughout his apartment. So you would walk through his apartment, and anywhere you went, you had the chance of seeing a ferret just napping in the tube, you know, and then they would come down to the central facility in the living room that he put in place of a coffee table, where the ferrets could come out of the tube farm and play. It was like Chuck E. Cheese, you know, the kid tube farm up in the ceiling of Chuck E. Cheese. It was like that.
Right.
Only for ferrets.
Probably needed just as much sanitization from time to time, I would imagine.
It was a little musky.
Yeah, yeah, they're known for that for sure. All right, so last one, a music question for you.
Oh, maybe I'll get this right.
Who was the first and only band to play a gig on all 7 continents?
It's got to be the Stones. It has to be the Rolling Stones.
Has to.
Well, okay, Strolling Bones at this point.
No, this was actually as recent as I think like 2015 or somewhere around there.
Oh, well, definitely not the Strolling Bones then.
No.
Fighters?
That's a really good guess. That's a really good guess, because they're big enough to do that kind of thing. It was actually Metallica.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
They played a gig at the like the science station in Antarctica for like 100 scientists that were hanging out there, and then here comes Metallica to play some gig for like some people that won a contest or something, and nobody else has done it.
No, so, I don't think anybody would play Antarctica.
You know, apparently, not much of a crowd there.
No, no. You might get the Monsters of Rock cruise to stop by.
Right.
This year's Monsters of Rock cruise features some of my all-time favorites. Extreme. I think Stryper's doing it again.
Oh wow, yeah.
These guys, Extreme, just dropped a new album, their 6th studio album, and it's fantastic.
Is it still Gary Sharon? Is he still singing?
Yes, still Gary Sharon. The original band is back together.
No kidding, Nuno and everything. All right,
Nuno Betancourt, Gary Sharon, Pat Badger, and the drummer. I can't remember his name.
Nuno's like.
Nuno is just, man. There's just nobody.
Yeah, no, the guy's something else entirely. He's really he's special.
See, these questions get me. My wife tells me I'm a fount of useless bits of knowledge because I retain all this trivia junk, but all of these stumped me. Thanks. That's
well. Look, if we take anything away from this chat, it's that now you know about how many sphincters are in your own body.
This is true. This will come up. This will be used somewhere.
It's really handy. I fully expect one of your characters to bust that out as a random fact at some point.
It's gonna happen sooner or later. It'll probably be a ranger.
Right. What the hell was wrong with Earth biology? Why did you have 60 sphincters?
Well, they're not all on the outside. That would be the defense.
Yeah, exactly.
They're inside. It's not like you can see them.
We evolved.
What about the one you're talking through? No, technically, it's not a sphincter.
Not the same.
I might have a potty mouth at times, but technically,
that's different. Oh yeah. So there's the suggestion. Some trivial pursuit at LibertyCon. Oh man!
If I ever get to LibertyCon, next year's is already sold out.
Yeah, that happens quick. That happens quick for sure. I was sitting there waiting. Like, have you ever seen the movie One Crazy Summer?
It's one of my favorite all-time movies.
Is it? Nice.
Savage Steve Holland directed it. Also directed Eat the Cat, the animated show, and also directed the follow-up to One Crazy Summer, which was everybody's favorite, Better Off Dead.
That is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. Yeah.
I have it
Yeah.
on DVD right back here. Introduced my
Ditto.
son to it.
Yep,
I was just like,
exactly.
you got to see this. You have
Before
to see
you
this.
shave, make sure you shave her before you kiss her goodnight.
Man, that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like
Good
that.
white boy. That's fantastic. I gotta watch it
Everybody's
again.
favorite meme.
That is my favorite.
$2.
That might be my favorite Christmas movie. Just like ever. I'm like, it's
And
better
it
off
does
dead.
count.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tentacles, NT. It's a big difference, right? It's important. It's a good movie for anybody who's writing. Well, Michael, thank you. And thanks for sticking with me through the
technical issue.
the crazy beginning of this freaking stream.
Please tell me you're going to find out what happened so we don't have this happen again.
Look, I got hit with a plant, and then there was just like everything was chaos all the way. I do have to figure that out to see, because normally my headphones work, and now my headphones don't. But it's fine. It's all good. This worked. It's great. It's going to be much smoother next time we iron some of these things out. Nobody I would rather have done that with. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up one more time, just all your stuff on the ticker tape. Let everybody know where we can find you and all that kind of stuff, and go. Well, it's right there.
It's right there. Yeah. Look, I do have a website. It's www.michaellavoice.com. You can also find me at amazon.com. Just look at www.amazon.com/author/Michael LaVoice. Or you can find me on Facebook as that Michael LaVoice. And that's also my handle on X. That Michael LaVoice. There's a story behind that. No, my last name in the South is not all that common.
Okay.
Upstate New York, different story. But a friend of mine that I used to do theater with, I went over to visit him one day. He goes, "Hey, did you know you signed my birth certificate?" And I'm like, "What? I wasn't alive when you were born, Chuck. What are you talking about?" He goes, "No, look." He shows me his birth certificate, and it's signed, but it's the wrong middle initial. It's Michael R. LaVoice instead of Michael P. LaVoice. And so I started doing some research, and there's a crap ton of Michael LaVoices out there, mostly on the Eastern Seaboard. So that's what prompted me to use that Michael LaVoice.
That Michael, yes, not the other Michael LaVoice. Right. Oh, that's good. Well, what is the next thing that you're working on right now that you're gonna, as soon as you're off this stream, you're hitting it? What are you doing?
I'm working on the outline for an alien invasion story. What I did was, when I try to pick what I'm going to work on next, Athon has right of first refusal on my next series.
Okay.
And so, whatever I want to work on next, I present to them first. If they don't want to do it, then I can work on it on my own, no problem.
For sure.
So I pitched 5 story ideas to them, and they said, "Hey, we really like these 2." And one was the alien invasion story, and the other one it takes place in a future where we have eliminated warfare by having power armored militaristic sports teams playing in an NFL type league, and the countries and star nations in conflict with each other submit their disputes to the league, and the different teams represent the different disputes, and whoever wins that particular dispute. So we haven't even had a military in a couple of 100 years. And then out of nowhere, there's this horde of creatures that's destroying everything in their path. And these prima donna athletes who are kind of like a cross between NFL players and the WWF have to defend humanity against them.
Nice.
So and they said, "Yeah, we like both of these." I said, "Okay, but which one do you want me to do?" I said, "We like both of these." Oh, so what I've done is, as soon as I finish outlining book 3 of the alien invasion story, I will start writing it in the mornings, and in the afternoons or evenings, I will start working on the outline for the other series.
Nice.
And so I'll be splitting my days up between the 2. I've never done this before. I don't even know if I can. This is what I'm going to try to do. So then I will, once I get the second series outlined, I'll be writing the first series in the morning, writing the second series later in the day.
Oh my goodness.
We'll see if it works.
Yeah.
It may not work. I may have to just shut one of them down and finish the first one.
Right.
And go back. I don't know, but it's going to be a fun experiment either way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, listen, thank you for coming on here and for chatting with me.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
We did have a lot of fun with this. Let's do it again sometime. And a warning to anybody else that's hanging out on the 3 Ravens Discord server, because I'm going to drag them on here too. because I like doing this and I enjoy chatting with fellow writers and authors, and just to get some of this stuff out and have our chats about all these different things, whether it's pop culture or whatever else. If you are sitting there in the chat and you've been watching, thank you so much for sticking around through me getting hit with a plant and not having my audio okay, and making it though, and we made it work, and we got some terrible advice from Chat GPT and some funny questions, and now we know all
shout
about
out to the chat people. Thanks for there was a lot of chat going on, man.
Really appreciate it, and definitely looking forward to doing more of these, because for me this is just a good way to extrovert my introvert. So
I'm an extroverted introvert. I have to be with people, but then I have to go by myself and process it.
Exactly. So please, pretty please, if you haven't, follow Michael on all of the things, hit his website and all that kind of stuff. Check him out on Amazon and all those. And if you haven't, hit subscribe for me on my channel, because we're going to be doing more of these. And hey, it'd be cool if you knew and popped in and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to do some where I get like a few people at the same time, but who knows how that will magnify me getting plants or
get
audio
a panel going.
There's going to be 5 plants coming down because I'll have 5 people.
Since I can't go to LibertyCon next year, let's get a panel going.
Look, I'm going to be in Tennessee, and I think we're driving because the air travel was so incredibly awful this past year. So even if how far is Chattanooga from where you are?
Chatty's about somewhere between 6 and 8 hours away from me. Hey, Sleepless Night in the chat. You live in Chattanooga. That's my son. How far away is Chattanooga from here? I don't know. That's where he lives. But there's a lot of LaVoices in the chat.
Right, I know. I've been seeing. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good.
Well, my son, there's my other son, there's my sister, there's my wife. It's crazy. But yeah, Memphis is on the extreme.
You're all the way on the
west end of the state.
Yeah.
You can't. It's as far west as you can go without hitting Arkansas.
Right.
So yeah.
I've been there once. I visited Graceland. I did do the Graceland thing when I was there. It was nice.
Saw Striper at Graceland a few years ago.
It was really hot and very humid there. that was the thing.
You came at the wrong time of year, man. You got to come during false spring, which is around December.
Oh, okay. It's like it's warm for a couple days, and then it's
warm for about a week, and there's not much humidity for a change. So
all right. There's that. All right. Well, sir, hopefully you can make it to LibertyCon and I can see you in person, and we can chat about all this ridiculous stuff as well. And if not, we'll do this kind of stuff again.
Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast, dude.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. Yep. Take it easy, everyone. Have a good night.